All right, good morning. Wednesday morning, intro to art, both second and third hour. We're going to be working with, like I said yesterday, the sketchbook drawing that you guys worked on last week involving the watercolor pencils today in class. Now, I have to caution you on this. If you have yet gotten to this point where your sketchbook drawing is filled in with watercolor pencils, pause the video, make sure that you finish that, and then go ahead and move on to the next step after that, because it is very important that you don't move on any further with the video before everything is filled in with your watercolor pencil. Now, I will say this, all right, before you pause, take a look here inside of my drawing and notice that I'll zoom in a little bit. Notice I didn't really do the best job ever with my color pencils. And really the main reason behind that is these are watercolor pencils, so I'm not using them to fill in all the areas. Really what I'm trying to do is just lay down some of the watercolor pigment itself so that the water can then go in and activate it. I will stress to you guys again that you're not using the pencil very heavy. You're going to be using it a little lightly. All right, so again, if you haven't yet gotten to a point where your sketch is all filled in with the watercolor, pause the video and then do that and come back. All right. Okay, so you guys have had an opportunity now to hopefully fill in your drawing. And whether your drawing's been finished for a while in Sharpie or you just drew it last Friday in pencil or pen, this will work pretty well. A couple things that you're going to want to take note of, but this should work pretty well. Now, a couple of the materials that you're going to need. Pretty basic. We've been working with these forever, but you will need a brush. One of few different style brushes. I would recommend, trying to get something that fits your drawing or fits the size of your piece of paper. You'll also need clean water. Clean water. And this is going to be mainly used to activate the paint that's on your paper. And then this is kind of something that at your own discretion you might want, depending on how thin your sketchbook is. But I would recommend a scrap sheet of paper that you can put underneath just to be safe, so that none of the water really does bleed through the rest of the layers of your sketchbook. Now, the rest of this is actually quite simple. It's almost a little bit too simple, almost a little elementary, but there is some good things that can happen from this. So basically, you're going to come in here and just activate your brush with some water, and then come in and apply very, very small, tiny amounts of water over top of the areas that you've already laid down color pencil. Now you'll notice I'm using one of those smaller brushes in this little area right here. Again, larger brushes probably would be good in larger areas. But one of the things that I want you guys to get a chance to see is the overall effect and finish once the water gets added, as opposed to the way that the color pencil just plainly looks. You'll notice that as we do this, the colors are pretty vibrant. They bleed together really nicely, and the water activates them so that the vibrantness of the color shows through. Now, of course, in areas where you've laid down a little bit more or you were a little bit heavier with your color pencil, those areas are going to be a bit darker. In spots where you maybe overlapped a few colors, like for example in Deadpool's arms right here, I overlapped a light blue and a dark blue just to kind of give an element of shadow. You'll notice those will actually blend together really nicely. And as water evaporates out of your brush, you can come back and just activate them again. The color pencils, that is. So it's around this time of the demonstration that I'll get a lot of questions from students asking, well, why do they make watercolor pencils if typically, watercolor artists or painters use it or are accustomed to using it in a tray form or in a tube form? And the answer to that's quite simple. The idea of the watercolor pencil is mainly a concept for travel and to try and make painting on the go a little bit easier. It's a technology that wasn't necessarily around for a long time, but over the case of a couple years, and over the fact that art materials have kind of grown in the way that they can be made and everything, they found a way to package watercolor in a pencil form. Now I'm just going to finish up his head here real quick because I think you guys will get the picture here. But what I'd like you guys to do is approach your drawing with just simply activating it with clean water. And you'll notice your water really isn't going to change color much depending upon how heavy you added the actual pigment from the pencil in the first place. Now, one of the things I am going to stress here, since you do have the hour to work on this, is go into the background and layer up a few colors together, a few colors that work together, so that the background can actually be filled in. Now, I chose to use like yellows, reds, and oranges, and I'm going to attack this, since it's a larger space, with my bigger paintbrush. But I want to show you guys, because yellow usually doesn't photograph very well. Yellow is a hard color to come up on the screen or on the board. And notice what happens as soon as I start activating this with a little bit of water. Those scribble marks that were once there all blend together. And I can just use the pencil, or I'm sorry, the paintbrush, wow, the paintbrush to activate all these other colors and actually let them blend together as a nice faded wash in my sketchbook without having to try to be perfect in my blending of colors. Now again, I think a really good technique, or a really good thing to keep in mind here, is depending on how thick your paper is, a scrap sheet of paper will help that, just so that it doesn't bleed into the other areas. But I'll zoom in to give you guys a little bit closer detailed look as to what, oh, wrong way, as to what I did here. Basically, I just combined really quickly a couple scribbles of yellow, a little bit of red down there, and a little bit of orange this morning. And as I go over them with my clean water, you'll notice that it just smears or activates the color a little bit better. Let's zoom back out. Might not be the best detail. So, throughout the hour, what I'm going to have you guys work on is obviously make sure that you've got everything wrapped up, because on your paper, excuse me, a big sigh there, watercolor pencils don't work well on damp paper. Some of you guys are going to find this out in areas that maybe you didn't get a chance to fill in real quickly. If the paper's already wet and you try to apply the watercolor pencil, it'll almost just kind of stick there like a regular pencil would on a piece of paper that's dry, and it won't really bleed anywhere. So you want to try to check this type of effect before you actually apply any water. Water should be one of the last things that you do. And once you get this all filled up with your watercolor, a pencil that is, go in with just regular clean water and blend those pigments together. As you can see, I've got a little bit more to do here, but blend those pigments together so that you get a watercolor filled in sketchbook drawing, and then submit to me your work using the hashtag MHS Sketchbook Challenge. I'm going to be looking for these already, because I've already got a set of them that came in last Friday, but the continuation to this project will be this right here. You'll notice I haven't necessarily put them into the grade book yet, because I was looking for you guys to finish it today. So you will receive credit upon completion today, and this whole thing should be filled in. Make sure your Deadpool sketch has got the watercolor pencil filled in, and also your background has a arrangement of colors as well that has been activated with the water. All right? I'll see you guys tomorrow in Thursday's class.